Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Tracy Show. Thank you for all the people that joined last night. I told you all last night this is going to be a busy week because I have not one, not two, but three interviews this week. So we are on interview number two with our guest. I'll let him introduce himself here shortly. Want to get to some bills that have to be paid. Number one, hit that subscribe button, hit it, destroy it, obliterate it. We are up to 428 in terms of the number we have. Our goal is 500. So that means we are 72 away. So we need you to hit that, smash that, obliterate that, destroy that subscribe button. Subscribing is literally free, does not cost you a thing. And of course, hit the notification button to know when I'm going live. Also, I forgot my Patreon thing, but we're going to skip that today. We're going to go down to my personal GoFundMe campaign. You all know I've been experiencing some hardships here lately. I'm trying to raise $2,500 to get those taken care of. You can contribute any amount. I would greatly appreciate it. Um, Contribute to the First Baptist Church North Drama Camp or Drama Academy. That is an academy that I personally started to help inner city youth express themselves through dramatic expression. We are trying to raise $10,000. So any contribution, large or small, would be greatly appreciated. And I got that twice. I did not mean to have that twice. But that's how important it is to me. So if you could contribute, that would be great. And then next, I rarely put this on, but I'm trying to push this. Follow me on Rumble. Rumble support someday. Um, in the near future, I want to start podcasting on both YouTube and Rumble at the same time, but I need 5 followers to do so. So I have 4. So just go over there and follow me. I just need one more follower, and then that will be great. I'll get to the candidate's website here in just a moment while we're doing our interview. And finally, in terms of my is support me on Patreon because I have two paid to podcasts on uh, Rumble. I don't have to pay on StreamYard, but I'm very limited in what I can do. So if you want to contribute, it starts at $2 per month. That's 50 cents a week. That's I think that's less than a dime a day. My math is terrible, so just pardon me, but I know it's less than a dime a day. Anyway, anyway, I am going to ask my guest to introduce himself.
Thank you, Tracy, and it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Ken Krawchuk. I am the Libertarian Party candidate for governor of Pennsylvania, and that's probably the shortest. I can go on and on and on. Let me just stop right there. What else would you like to know?
Oh, we've got a whole lot of questions because I think when we were discussing backstage, I told you I'm a leftist, so I'm going to have a whole lot of questions about the Libertarian Party and where they stand and why I'm like, okay, but that makes no sense to me. So just
Okay.
know that I will be as respectful as I possibly can. I always get these conversations with a attitude of respect and will not be disrespectful, but there are some things I'm like, okay, this makes no sense. But first question, what is it that made you, and you're running in Pennsylvania, is that correct?
That is
Okay,
correct.
so what made you think, you know, I'm not going to run for mayor. I'm not going to run for state office. Well, you're running for state office, but I'm going to run for governor. What is it that made you decide to run?
Well, I decided to run for governor because I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. There's so many problems. Now, I've run for lower offices. I've run for my township commissioner several times, state representative, Congress. I even sought my party's vice presidential nomination back in 2000. I came in third, so it's a decent showing. But Pennsylvania is on way on the wrong track. I'm a student of the Pennsylvania Constitution, so I know a lot about that, and I could see where people are just completely going off the rails. And the number one thing which really annoys me is the way we handle education in Pennsylvania. Right now, more than half the kids cannot read at grade level. More than half. Almost 2/3 can't do math at grade level. Our Constitution says that the state should run a thorough and efficient means of public education. Well, obviously, it's not thorough if more than half the kids aren't learning. On the expense side, right now it costs about $24,000 for the government to educate one kid. Your typical private schools, now I'm not talking about the fancy academies, just regular private schools, they charge about $11,000 a kid, less than half the price. So it's not thorough and it's not efficient. So we really have to fix both of those problems. That's my number one issue. I could pause there in case you want to talk about that one.
No, we will, but here's and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm about 100% sure Josh Shapiro is the governor right now.
Yes, he was once my state representative too. I get stories about
Right.
him.
And if I'm correct, he's running for re-election. Am I right?
You are correct.
Okay, so got that right. And then there's a Republican who I don't know. Who's the Republican candidate running?
Her name is Stacey Garrity, and she is currently the Pennsylvania State Treasurer. So she's got some backing. She's already been around the block a few times. I've met her. She's a nice lady. She talks a little bit like a libertarian, but they always end up governing like Democrats.
So and I'm not gonna go off about the 10,000 reasons why Josh Shapiro makes me want to vomit. I will not do that. I don't live in Pennsylvania. I don't have any stakes in the game. I don't have any, I have no uh, consequence I would suffer if he went re-election, which I hope he does not. But these races do have national implications. They do. And this is why I bring candidates on that's running for office. What is it that makes you different from those two candidates?
Well, we libertarians are different from the two old parties because we are the party of principle. Every law we support or oppose goes back to one central idea: the idea that your life is yours, that your property is yours, that you have the inalienable right to live your life your way without interference, provided only that you respect the rights and property of others. That's it. Your life, your way, as long as you respect the rights and property of others. Golden rule on a political level.
Right. And so I want to talk about, because I'm at your website, which I said I was going to bring up your website. I'm doing this a lot quicker in the program, but I'm reading some things on your website that's making me kind of scratch my head, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to visit the candidate's website right there at Ken K, the number 4, don't type in the word 4 like I did, but the number 4 pa.com to learn how you can engage in the campaign. One of the things you state is that you want to privatize the public schools. So does that mean you're wanting to take it out of the control of the government? And if it does mean that, then whose hands would you put it into?
Yes, absolutely, I would privatize it. As I said, right now the government is not fulfilling its constitutional mandate. And in fact, 3 years ago, our Supreme Court ruled our school system unconstitutional the way it's put together right now. So let me give you go over some of those numbers. I already said it's $24,000 of spending per kid per year versus $11,000 for private education. Right now, the state is giving each school district $11,000 per kid. What I want to do is take that $11,000 and give it directly to the child as a voucher, so the parents can choose any private school that they want for their child. Now, a few things happen from that. First of all, every kid in Pennsylvania gets a private education. Second of all, since we're taking the money away from the school districts, we shut them down. Right now, the school districts are charging outrageous property taxes. It's a terrible, terrible tax. It chases seniors out of their homes. It stops first-time home buyers, and it's paying for a bad education. So by privatizing the schools, we can give every kid a private education. We can get rid of the property tax. I pay thousands of dollars a year in property tax. All that's gone. And what we'll do instead is, since these kids are going to have this voucher, the private schools are going to purchase the existing government schools and turn them into private schools. Because if kids got $11,000 burning in a hole in their pocket, you know that the free market is going to step up and provide a better education. And when you look at the numbers, more than half the kids in the government schools can't read. Well, in the private schools, that number is about 80, 90%. We've got to do something. And that's the best thing that I can find to do. The free market will give us all the choices we need. It happened with telephones. It happened with airlines. It happened with so many different things. I want it to happen to education as well.
Here's where my concern is, and it's just a concern. Again, I don't live in Pennsylvania. I'm of the thought that the private sector does not run anything well. They don't run our prisons well. And I'm speaking of just me in Indiana. So maybe it's different in Pennsylvania than it is here. But they're in charge of our uh private our prisons are privatized, and I contend they're some of the worst ran institutions that we have. In terms of vouchers for schools, what I think happens and what the site could be missing is the racial component. So, are you talking about institutionalizing something where a private school, assuming that this goes through the courts and all those things, they can't discriminate? Because I can imagine a private school saying, yeah, we don't really want Black children. We don't really want indigenous children. How do you get around that? And maybe it doesn't exist, but I can imagine, oh, there's some school out there that may say, well, black children don't test as well. Although for me, I'm not the person that says you can use one test to measure intelligence, because there's several different levels of intelligence, how you're using one test, but that's a whole different thing. But my essential question is, how do you address that? Or one, is it a problem? Two, if it is a problem, how do you address that?
Well, I'll go back to what I said before. If every kid has $11,000 every year burning a hole in their pocket, they're going to choose the school that's best for them. It could be they are going to choose a school where everybody is of the same race or the same religion. Me personally, I was raised Roman Catholic, so I went to a Catholic school. You had to be a Roman Catholic to go there. It's up to the school to decide. Think of what the alternative would be. Are you going to have the government dictate how a private company should be run? The private sector is the best way to do this. Just look at some normal things in your life, like your supermarket. You don't go to a place that sells rotten fruit. Maybe go to farmer's market, get stuff really, really fresh. Look at your phones. Man, oh man. When I was younger, my brother was stationed in New Zealand. It cost $12 a minute to talk to him. Now you can call New Zealand for free. These are the things that the private sector does. The main problem with the schools right now is that they are run by the government. And if you want to change something about those schools, you have to pass a law. The minute you talk about passing a law, it's going to take a long time. They turn our kids into political footballs. Everybody gets involved. No, get that out of there. Let the parents choose. What kind of school the parents want, that's what they're going to pick, because they're going to have the voucher in their pocket. And different schools are going to vie for that. It could be homeschooling. It could be religious schooling. It could be racially based schooling, which I don't know why people would do that. It's up to them. So generally speaking, the free market would take care of all of that, in my opinion.
I and here's where I'm slightly disagreeing, because I do unfortunately think there are people that will say, there's too many, I'm gonna say black because I'm black. I'm black all day, every day. That's the lens I look at everything in. I can imagine that there are people that are gonna say, but let's get past that point. Here's another thing.
Well, before you get off of that, let me say, of course there are people who do that. You're not going to be able to convince everybody overnight. When I was young, I guess I'm kind of young now. I'm talking about like in the 50s and 60s, there was a lot of prejudice, heavy duty prejudice. Most of that is gone. When I was after college, there was a lot of prejudice against gays. Most of that is gone. It takes time for these old opinions to die out. If they're not dying out quick enough, that's right. It's changing. I see the tide changing. So it's not as bad as you may be making it out to be.
Okay,
With all,
so I think we live in two different worlds because I definitely do. It's better in some senses, and then some instances we got a long way to go. But I will say this,
yes.
I will say, let's just use this, let's use the city of Philadelphia as an example. That's probably the state's largest city. I'm just gonna take a
Mhm.
guess and say
And,
Philadelphia is the largest city.
and it's a good choice too because I grew up in inner city Philadelphia, so
Um,
I'm
so
exactly in the
if
area you're
there,
talking about.
there's schools A, B, and C under your proposal. School A is, and we're going to use the age ranges of high schoolers. I'm not talking about elementary or junior high, just talking about high schoolers, grades
Mhm.
9 through 12. So school A is the best school. Their test scores are high. The teachers are engaged. Everybody wants to go to school A. But
Mhm.
school A only has 150 slots, but 4,000 children, parents are applying to school A.
Mhm.
School B is not terrible, but school B does not get um, high test scores as school A. They have a 250 limit, but they have, some wiggle room to except maybe they have 3,000 that are applying. Then you have Group C. Group C is the terrible schools. They have low test scores. They have low teacher engagement. Nobody wants to go to school C. Everybody
Mhm.
wants A. Some people want B because school A isn't available. How do you how do you address that? Because if everybody's choosing one school, they can only take so many
Uh-huh.
people.
Yep. Well, it comes back to the free market again. Nobody is going to send their kids to school C because school C is no good. Okay, what they're going to do instead, school C is going to go out of business because nobody's going to be going there. Instead, school A is going to buy school C and use those same techniques that's making them so popular, and they're going to bring it into school C. School C is going to come up on the same level as school A, and B is going to have to up their game because now people are going to A and C because B is not as good. So they're going to have to improve in order to attract those vouchers. And if they don't, they go out of business too. And they should.
So you're making this more of a free market.
Yes,
Obviously,
ma'am.
you said that. You've actually said that, and that's where I'm like, I'm trying to really see this from your eyes and not mine because I'm like, I believe this is what I believe, and we can have a discussion. I believe there's certain things that should not be in the private sector. The military. I don't want the military. I think the military obviously is too big. They're doing too much. We need to cut that budget down as much as we can. The military is one, schools are another, trash collection. There's just certain things I believe
No,
that the
no.
government should be in charge of, and I don't want the public. No, I'm just telling you what I believe.
Okay.
Um,
I disagree.
um,
Tracy, this.
you can, but I'm just saying there are things that I believe, and Nelson's also making this point. I don't want private corporations in their hands. And I'm going to use the example that Nelson uses, Social Security. So we have something called Medicare Advantage. Medicare Advantage is terrible. It is terrible. It's not administered the way it should be. It's managed by United, Anthem. You pick your
Mhm.
plan. I think the government would do a better job of managing it at a better cost than those private groups. Now, you said you disagree with me, so I'll let you speak.
Thank you. Well, Tracy, first of all, more than half the kids in your public schools cannot read at grade level. The government's doing a terrible job. Private schools are doing a wonderful job. Now, if you're going to send your kid to a private school versus one of those government schools that are not teaching kids, which one are you going to pick for your kids? It's obvious what they are. And now, when you're talking about these other things, Medicare, that's a federal issue. I have no authority over that. The what did you mention? Medicare Advantage plans? I have a Medicare Advantage plan. Yes, I'm over 65. I think it's great because it's better than basic Medicare. I get more coverage. I get, my eyeglasses are paid. Medicare doesn't pay for eyeglasses. My dental work gets paid. So the private sector is doing a much better job. The problem with healthcare in general is that we are forced into that government system. I had insurance agent license for 12 years. So I saw it from the inside. It's a mess. What they're doing in Pennsylvania, anyway, I don't know about your state, is they have made it illegal to step outside of the government school system. That's not going to be the government medical insurance system. I'm crossing my eyes here. What we have in Pennsylvania is something called health share organizations. There are a bunch of people who get together and they share each other's medical expenses. When I was still under an Obamacare policy, for me and the wife, for a poor policy, we were paying $1,600 a month. For equivalent coverage, better coverage with a health share organization, it was $400 a month. The problem was most of those are illegal in Pennsylvania. There's a law saying you cannot choose a private insurer. And that's one thing I would work to change. So if you don't like the Medicare Advantage plans, that's because the government set them up. When I was talking about Medicare for the Advantage plans, I can't say certain words. I can't say, how are you doing? Because I'm not allowed to ask about your health. I can't recommend a policy because I'm not allowed to. Whole bunch of things that I can't say because it's a law. The minute I said it with schools, when it's a law, it's hard to change. It turns sick people into a political football. We got to get government out of the way and let the free market take over. That's why I like my Medicare Advantage plan. I change plans every year because some years Humana is really good. Some years Aetna is really good. Some years United's really good. And they keep changing because they're competing for my voucher. And I'm always picking the best one. That's the benefit of the free market. The more you let people choose for themselves, the better off we are.
Here's where I'm going to ask this question because, again, obviously we agree to disagree. But again,
I don't.
Respectful. I can very much tell by your tone you are not for Medicare for all. That's something I advocate for. I'm gonna.
It costs too much. It costs too much. Have you ever been in a VA hospital?
Yeah, I understand. That's why I said by your tone, I can tell you're not going to walk down that aisle. And again,
I'm a libertarian.
But here's what I will ask, because libertarians always talk about you can save money and save money. If you're giving, for example, with your school voucher program, if private schools are educating children at $11,000 per child, and public schools are doing this at $24,000, where does the $13,000 go? Right? Because if you're cutting $13,000 by going to the private system, well, now there's a surplus of $13,000.
Yep. Do you know where that $13,000 is? Property tax. Right now, thousands of dollars. Every homeowner, every business owner is getting socked with thousands of dollars for an education system that does not work. That's the difference between the $11,000 and the $24,000. That's property tax. Get rid of it. We don't need it.
So you would eliminate the property tax.
Yes, ma'am. And in fact, there you go. I got yard signs. Eliminate property tax.
Okay.
Privatize failing schools.
I'm a homeowner that does not have children, so I have skin in the game, but I really don't because I'm paying property taxes.
It's in your rent. It's in your rent.
Right. Well, no, I'm a homeowner.
Oh, you're a homeowner?
Yes, I'm a homeowner.
Then you're paying property tax. Well,
I'm paying property taxes, but here's what I'm getting at, because I'm wondering, you're saying, you would eliminate property tax. But how can I frame this question where it'll make sense to me? So, when you're in a profession, every single year you expect a raise. Teachers are going to expect you. So, okay, so now you're shaking your head, no, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. So, how would you then go about determining what? Okay, so the individual school would obviously determine the salaries of the teachers. This is what
Yes.
I'm expecting. Would those teachers be allowed to form unions to say, no, we want this,
Sure,
and
they could
we're
do.
not going to go to work? We can strike if we feel like our salaries are too high, because I don't imagine that 11,000 is a lot of money. I mean,
Enough for
it's a lot to
Pennsylvania.
me,
Uh-huh.
but it doesn't seem like that's enough money to educate a child for a full year, especially because I'm assuming that that goes towards salaries and
Yeah.
administrative
Yep.
costs and
Yep.
those type of things.
Yep. Your typical Catholic school around here charges about $7,000 a year. You know, and since I was raised Catholic, I'm very familiar with that. It's a great education. You know, so it does happen. And like I said, the average is $11,000. So there are a few that charge a little bit more, a lot that charge a lot less. But when you start talking about letting teachers unionize, absolutely. I'm a libertarian. Your life, your way, as long as you respect others. But if you're going to walk off the job saying, I want more money, walk off the job. We'll give it to somebody else who's willing to take that. That's called the free market. If you're going to force an employer to pay a certain wage, well, then you've got government schools again. That's just what we have now. Teachers in Pennsylvania, they're getting paid between $40,000 and $70,000 a year. If we had this voucher school system, there would be no reason why you could not hang out your shingle. What's a normal class size? 25, 30 kids? You say, I'm taking 15 kids only, and I'm going to charge $10,000 a piece. You now have a teacher making $150K a year by getting no union, all based upon how good that teacher is with the students. If they got a
Well,
good reputation, they're going to get a lot of students and they're going to be getting a nice salary. If they're no good, nobody's going to go there. And I hear McDonald's is hiring.
here's where I would come back at that. I would say not all of that. Let's just say a school charges. Well, no, we'll use your example of 11,000 because that's the average. All of that
Mhm.
11,000 isn't going directly to the teacher, because that teacher, unless they're doing virtual learning, they have to have a building. That child has to that child has to eat during the day, because we want our children fed, because if
Mhm.
a child is fed, then they're more able to learn. So we've
Mhm.
got building costs, electricity costs, food costs,
Yep.
transportation. Children have to get to school. So
Yep.
all of that 11,000 isn't just going to that teacher. Some of it's going here and some of it's going there and some of it's going
Yep.
there. So how would you reconcile that? Well, you're saying the free market. So each school is going to regulate, the teacher may get
Correct.
2,000 of the $2,000 out of the 11, because again, you have to pay for the building, you have to pay for the
Mhm.
electricity, the 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 energy costs, um, any activities like sports is a big
Yep.
thing in Indiana.
Yep.
We have basketball tournaments and football tournaments and tennis tournaments.
Yep.
Those are still a part, I'm assuming, of the 11,000.
Yep. It's called running a business. And all the private schools are running themselves as a business. They're the ones who are making those decisions, how much people are getting paid, about paying for the building or doing it virtual and everything like that. They're succeeding now. They're out there now. Churches have been doing this for 1,000 years. So all those things you're saying, these things are all doable, being done right now. So it's not really an issue. One thing that you mentioned, transportation, there's some separate laws in Pennsylvania. One of them is to provide transportation, $500 a year on average per kid. That's being given to the school district. No, no, no. Give it right to the kid as a voucher. Here in Philadelphia, our local SEPTA public transportation, it's not $500 a year going back and forth to school. Same thing for all of all of those. And the one thing you didn't mention, most importantly, is special needs kids. Right now, that's being forced into the public school system. I've had a woman in tears telling me how that public school system has ruined their child. It'd be the same thing again. That funding for the special needs kids, instead of giving it to the school district, which is doing a bad job, again, it goes right as a voucher to the kids, and the parents can choose the best provider for their special needs kids. You're not going to convince me the government's doing a good job for schools. They're not, at least not here in Pennsylvania. That's why I want to get the government out of that.
No, I'm not saying that they're doing a good job. I'm
Thank you.
cautioned about the price because when I hear privatization, I see evil corporations that just cut jobs and make you do more with less. That's what I see. I would never say that the government is doing a great job because they obviously aren't. I'm just cautionary about privatization. That's where my hesitation is. Here is what I would ask though, and how, and this is a general question, how do you, um, when you say there would be no tax increases, most people would hear that and say, yeah, that's a great thing because taxes are too high. Of course,
Correct.
I would contend, and I won't be popular with you for saying this. I'm like, well, really? Because if I look at what other countries are paying, we're pretty low in terms of what it is that we're paying. Um, but again, I'm probably not going to be a popular person with the libertarians for saying it. Doesn't matter because I'm not libertarian. But what I'm getting at is this. Would it be better to let the taxpayers or the citizens decide if they want to be taxed?
I agree. That's a good one. You already mentioned trash collection, that you wanted the government to do it. My hometown here of Abington Township, outside of Philadelphia, they nationalized the trash collection here. They said, if you're getting trash taken away, you got to use our haulers. Their haulers cost more. Why am I being forced to pay more? When I first moved here, we had trash twice a week, trash pickup. Now it's once a week, and we're paying more for it, and I don't have a choice. These are the things that I want to get rid of. Taking a giant step back, you mentioned different places charging different amounts in tax. From a libertarian point of view, taxes, they're wrong. Because if I took your wallet without your permission, I'd be a thief. You know, if me and a couple of libertarians got together and tried to take your wallet, well, we'd all be thieves. If our town got together and voted to take your wallet, well, wait a minute. Somehow it just crossed the line and it's not theft anymore. We libertarians believe taxation is theft. We believe government is the worst provider for virtually everything. So we want to get government out of there. There are always better providers. We just had that example right there with the trash collection. It could be with anything. It could be with ambulances. It could be with the police department. It could be with safety inspections. It could be any sort of thing. You should be able to choose the provider that you want to do those things. Now, it's important they get done. That's what government is here for, to protect the rights and property of the people. But it shouldn't be forcing down your throat that you've got to pay for and accept an inferior provider, whether it's trash, schools, or whatever.
Understood. And like I said, I never want to suggest that I think the government is doing a good job because they are not.
You're
Um,
starting to sound like a libertarian.
well, no, because I believe respectfully, I believe in expanding the social safety net. And the reason I believe that is because I see children, I hear of children going to sleep and they don't have enough food. There's food deserts and there's homelessness and I don't see the private sector addressing homelessness. I see the private sector raising rents and raising house prices and those type of things. So until that is answered for me, it's going to be hard for me to say, "Oh yeah, libertarian." Yeah, it's going to be hard
Mhm.
for me. And that could be, maybe that's a discussion that I would have later on. But of course, I want you to talk about your campaign. Um,
You,
and
we
your
are. You've been covering my points very well, my lady. Thank you.
um Oh, you're welcome. But for me, I say expand the social safety net. I don't care if my taxes go up 50%. Now, here's the thing. The government isn't feeding children,
Mhm.
isn't providing homes for the homeless and health care for those people that don't have it. It's not addressing the fact that Black women die in childbirth. It's not doing any of those things, and they're still taking our money. That's a that is that's where I will agree with the libertarians on. You're taking the
Mhm.
money, but you're not doing anything with it except that all day, every day. But in general, I'm like, we have to address the homelessness issue. That's a
Mhm.
big, big concern. We have to address that there are food deserts. There are communities that people
Yeah.
can't get to the grocery store because the grocery store is so far. They don't drive, they don't have a car. Public transportation is poor. Uber is high. So, and that is a good question. How would you address that? Because I can imagine in Philadelphia, there are food deserts. I'm like 100% certain. So if you're
Yep.
using the privatization model, how does that address grandmother that can't get to the store because she doesn't drive, she can't find somebody to take her? How do you address that without increasing taxes?
Well, there are a couple things that are involved in this. And let me take a giant step backward and say the big problem why there are poor areas is because of the economy. And the reason why the economy is doing so poorly is because our money is being stolen from us behind our backs. When the Federal Reserve was created back in 1914 or something like that, beginning of the last century, a dollar was worth a dollar. Today, that dollar is worth 2 cents from what it was. The Federal Reserve has taken that money and plummeted the value. I'll give you a personal example. 1964, I used to collect coins. I still do. Back in 1964, silver quarters, dimes, nickels still circulated. Minimum wage was $1.15 an hour. You would get 4 quarters, a dime, and a nickel, but they were silver coins. Do you know what 4 quarters, a dime, and a nickel in silver is worth today? About 60, $70. If we had maintained decent money standards, the minimum wage today would be 60 or $70. So the problem here is not necessarily the individual private sector things. It's our government running the printing press to print out more money to devalue the dollars that we have in our pocket. So what I'd like to do is return to a system of sound money, and that way your money, the value of money is not going down all the time. Look at the inflation that we just went through the past couple of years. It was inevitable because during the mismanaged pandemic, they were glad handing money all over the place. That meant in a couple of years, inflation was going to hit, and it did. So now prices have what, doubled? I don't know. I'm not an economist. I haven't done a study on that. But the problem is our money, because it's being robbed from us by inflation every day. But other numbers are staying the same. The number that you're getting, maybe your annuities, your retirement program, whatever, it's only paying so much. That number's not changing. But as the government runs that printing press, every dollar, every time they print a dollar, it's being stolen from you. Now, as for supporting the, the whole social safety net, I've had people say, we should get Washington in here to supply some money. Well, you know what happens when you send a dollar to Washington? This is a $2 bill. See, inflation's even gotten to me. The first thing that happens to it is most of it vanishes into bureaucracy. This is what comes back to the state. But the state has its own bureaucracy too. This is what finally comes back to what they're trying to solve. You're lucky if you get a dime on the dollar back on what you send to Washington. And when it does come back, it doesn't go all to what we're looking at. It goes to waste. It goes to their political buddies. It goes to those NGOs that are being revealed all over the country as ripping us taxpayers off. You could help 10 times as many kids, give drugs to 10 times as many seniors, have 10 times as many schools, 10 times as many Ubers, 10 times as many grandmothers being fed if you kept that money locally and didn't use this crappy money that they're giving us. Pardon my French.
I do agree there's a lot of waste, but here's the thing with waste. And libertarians say it all the time. We're going to cut the waste. And as a leftist, it makes sense. You want to spend your dollars efficiently.
Mhm.
My argument or my concern is one, nobody ever identifies where the waste is. Like, where is it at? Like, where, okay, you say it's waste. Tell me where the waste is. Number two, how are you going to cut it? And I'll give you an example. Um, and this is federal, but again, because you'll be governor, you're going to be dealing with a lot of federal programs, and the administration of those programs. When if you want to build a house, I'll use this as an example. You have to first buy land. Then you have to get the land surveyed. Then you have to, assuming that you've done this before, once you buy the land, you had to get a blueprint drawn about how you want the house built. Then once you do that, of course, you have to go to the city to have them approve that you are building a house. So they say, oh, sure, you can build the house. But now you have to pay for, again, you have to pay for the surveyor, you have to pay for the foundation, the
Mhm.
electrical, the, I said the foundation. I forgot all about the water. I forgot all about that. So you had to put in the plumbing, then you had to build the foundation, then it has to get, then it has to get inspected, which I think it should be because you're asking people to drink out of there.
Yes, ma'am.
Then once you do that, you have to build the siding, you have to build the drywall, you have to build, you got to do all of these little steps. And why I think, well, it's kind of tedious, but I'm thinking it should be tedious. You're talking about putting people in a house. You
Mm.
don't want to build it quick. So when I hear eliminate waste, I'm thinking, oh, that's not going to work because you're going to skip lots of steps. And now we're talking about putting people in. Yeah, you're shaking your head no, but explain it to me because I hear libertarians
Well,
say it. I'm like, okay, 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 tell me where and tell
well,
me
what?
how you're going to eliminate the waste. Not just that
Well,
you're going to eliminate it, but like the how.
huh? Well, why would anybody skip steps when it comes to building a house or building a community or anything like that? No, you'd want to. It sounds like you're talking about anarchy. Anarchy is where there are no rules. I think there should be sensible regulations. It's over regulation that tends to kill things. You know, whether it could be somebody puts up a deck and you didn't file a piece of paper, you got to rip the deck down. It's that kind of over regulation that really does stuff. And when you talk about waste, I already pointed out in with our government schools here in Pennsylvania, the total student population has declined by almost 8% over the last 10 years. The number of administrators has gone up 40%. And that's in the government schools. If you look at the private schools, that didn't happen there because in the government schools, they pass a law saying you got to do this. Or maybe they just, it's a jobs program for adults. I don't know, but that's where the waste is. It's because it's a government program doing government things for stuff that does not need to be done.
Okay, that makes it makes more sense. I'm like, yeah, he did talk about this, but I wanted to ask it because, like I said, every time I'm hearing it, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Now you're talking
Mhm.
about this. I believe in rules. I believe in, if you're going to build communities, you want safe housing, clean
Yep,
air, clean water. I believe in all those things. But Nelson said something. I don't know how you would take this, but I'm going to put it up here. What we need to do is get millionaires to pay their taxes.
they do. What do you mean? Elon Musk spent $11 billion in taxes. Was it last year or the year before? It's the most anybody's ever paid in 1 year in taxes. They're already doing this. I mean, part of the problem is the tax code is so complicated that there are wormholes where people can go crawling through them. Now, we regular people may have one for home mortgage or something like that. But when you're talking high finance, they got all kinds of stuff. So the problem here is the tax code. If you made it real, real simple, then all those tax holes would go away. And most of what you're talking about is at the federal level. Pennsylvania is different because our Constitution says taxes have to be the same on everybody. So it's all 3.0% income tax, no matter how much you make. Now think about
Right.
that. If you're making 10K a year, you're only paying what? $300. I think that's it. If you're making $1 million a year, you're paying $30,000 a year. Anyway, the point is, I can't do math quick either. I'm just like you. The point is, rich people are going to be paying more with our flat tax, and that's the best thing we can do. National, again, I'm not running for president. Josh Shapiro is running for president. I'm not. When you're talking about national stuff, no. Pennsylvania is already pretty good with the flat tax. It's in our Constitution. That means it's hard to change. So I'm in favor of a flat tax, one where you don't have all
Yep.
these wormholes.
Right. I do want to move to an issue where I think we're going to be in agreement is
Woo-hoo.
gun control. I think we might be in agreement with this. Personally, I don't own guns. They disgust me. I don't like them. If we were living in Tracy's world, only police officers would have guns.
Mm.
However, I realize I live in the United States of America. We have this thing called the Second Amendment, so I got to suck it up and shut up. It's just what it is. Talk about your gun control platform.
Well, gun control is hitting your target. In Pennsylvania, our Constitution, again, very strong Constitution. Article 1, Section 21 says, the right of the citizen to bear arms in defense of himself and the state shall not be questioned. I have no question what that means. I've looked at studies. There's a gentleman, John Lott, a researcher at the University of Chicago. He did a nationwide county level study, and he found out that the cities with the highest handgun homicide rates had the strongest gun control. That's because people can't defend themselves. And the criminals know this. Nobody's got a gun. Yeah, go in there. Let's get them. An armed society is a safer society. Another example, again, this is from John Lott's research. And we knew this back in 78 was the first time I heard this. If a woman resists an attacker, she's twice as likely to be seriously injured. But if she resists with a handgun, she's half as likely to be seriously injured. And from this, I draw the conclusion that handguns are a girl's best friend. You know, regardless of what my opinion or your opinion is about guns, it's a fact. Even the CDC says this. Guns are used defensively much, much more often than they are offensively. And if a society is armed, it's a safer society. When they put up a sign that says, gun-free school zone, you know what that means? Children get shot because there's nobody there to stop the guy. I've seen the video of Columbine, harrowing. There was nobody there to stop them. Here in Pennsylvania, Edinburgh, up in the northwest corner of the state, student came in with a gun, started shooting. One of the janitors went out to the gun, got his gun, stopped the guy. This is what we need. We need to respect the right to keep and bear arms. And I don't know if you're aware of this. Most states are open carry states where you can just strap a gun onto your hip and go on out into the streets. You don't need a permit or anything like that.
Yeah,
I'm in
we're
favor
open
of
here in state.
I'm against any sort of gun control. Like I said, the only gun control is hitting your target.
Now, here's where we might disagree. What about people who are guilty of domestic violence? Um,
Put them in
people
jail.
who
Put them in jail.
no,
If they're beating somebody
okay,
up,
I
that's
understand.
a trick question.
Those that don't have the mental capacity to make decisions at what we would call a reasonable outcome.
Uh-huh. So you're talking about people who are not safe to be allowed to roam free in society?
Yes, that's exactly who I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, let me tell you how I would come at it. I have a novel idea. If you do some kind of a crime, I don't care what it is. It could be with a gun, it could be with a knife, with a car. Maybe you're driving like an idiot, whatever. As part of your sentence, when the judge is guilty and the jury says you're guilty, part of your sentence, you get what I call a can't license. Instead of a carry permit for your gun, you get a can't carry permit for your gun. And if we catch you carrying a gun, we throw your butt in jail. It's the same thing with if you're an idiot with a car zipping around 90 miles an hour in a residential thing, we don't need a driver's license. We give you a can't drive license. And if we catch you driving, we stick you in the pokey. We have got to put criminals behind bars and get them out of society as a whole. One of the things I'm promising to do as governor is I'm going to eliminate parole for violent criminals. If you're going around killing people or beating up your wife or beating up your husband, you belong behind bars. That's all there is to it. You shouldn't be roaming free. I don't want these people out in the streets. I got 3 daughters. I got grandkids. You got me started here, Tracy.
I didn't
I'm very
mean to, but I thought, well, yeah, I can see it. But again, like me personally, I just do. But like I said, I live in the United States of America. It's a problem, so we got to have it. We have to have. I don't like the NRA. I'll say that. I don't like them. Never have liked them. Not gonna like them. I just can't. Me and them, we never gonna get along. We just not.
I agree.
I'm gonna stay over here, and
I
you can stay over there, because you're
I
just
no, Tracy, I agree with you. I'm not a fan of the NRA either. I don't think that they handle the gun situation well enough. I think they cave in a little too often. I'm more a fan of Gun Owners of America, GOA. They're a much better
and
organization.
I'll say this and move on to the next question. If we wanted real gun control laws, every black person needs to register to become a member of the NRA and watch them change. They'll change
Yes,
overnight. They'll
yes,
change so fast. I'll be like, oh, okay. In proof,
yes.
Ronald Reagan, when he was governor, the Black Panthers showed up to a state rally and those gun laws changed so fast. I'm like, oh, so
Huh?
you can do something.
No, no. Maj Toure, Philadelphia guy, black guy. The guy's great. He is conducting firearm classes in the inner city in Philadelphia because right now the inner city people are being victimized because they don't have a gun, they don't know how to use a gun, they don't know gun safety. He's teaching them that, and he's been doing this, I don't know, 5-10 years now. He's got tremendous results out of this because now there are people who are not trapped waiting for the cop. When seconds matter, a cop is minutes away. You got to be able to defend yourself, defend your family. That's why I'm a huge proponent of not the Second Amendment, that's federal. Article 1, Section 21, the right to bear arms shall not be questioned, because you should not be trapped in your house. You should be ready to defend yourself, defend your family. And, people ask me about that, and I say, my doors are locked at night for your protection. And that's the way everybody
Yeah,
should be looking at the world.
that I agree with. Um, I did um I did have another question on your issues here. I definitely agree. Now, this is where I agree with the Libertarian Party about abortion. I'm like, yes. I'm like, yes, this is the right stand. Um,
Excuse me, I don't know what that is, because there are libertarians on all sides of that issue. There are libertarians for life. There are
there are.
libertarians for choice. Yeah, yeah. I was raised
I
Roman
thought you.
Catholic, but you see,
Oh,
the
so
problem, the problem with abortion is the media has made it into a sideshow. Right now,
well, yeah, that's
they,
true.
they want people fighting just so they can sell more banner ads, more newspapers, or whatever they're selling these
Well,
days.
maybe I should have said I agree with the official Libertarian Party stand.
We have no official stance on it because there are people on both sides. I have a different approach to the whole thing, and so far as I know, it's unique. I haven't heard anybody else saying this. As
Okay.
governor, as governor, I would promote one change to the law, not to the abortion laws, but to the adoption laws. Specifically, I would allow for prenatal adoption. If a woman does not want her unborn child, anybody can step forward and adopt it while it's still in the womb. And through the privacy of the doctor, they would ask a woman, would you please bring the baby to term? Somebody wants the baby. They will pay for all the expenses. The adoptive parents will cover everything. The woman can say yes or no. That's pro-choice. If she says yes, we've just saved a baby. That's pro-life. And since a lot of babies are aborted for economic reasons, Tracy, we are guaranteed to reduce the number of abortions and preserve a woman's right to choose at the same time. Pro-life and
Well,
pro-choice. People say, are
you
you
just
pro-life or
said,
pro-choice?
I
Yes, yes.
am.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I understand.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
definitely pro-choice. I'm definitely pro-choice because I feel
You
like
got the
I'm a
choice.
grown woman. I'm grown. You're not gonna tell me nothing. You're not gonna. What I have to face in terms of my judgment, that's for me to face. Let me make the choice. But
You sound
yeah,
like a
thank you for
libertarian.
educating me. I'm not a libertarian.
You sound like one. Your life,
Um,
it's your life. You lead your life your way. Provide you respect the rights and property of others. Period.
yes. Now, last one here because I didn't realize time just flew by so fast. We've had
But we're
such
having
a
fun.
great, yeah, see, I said I was going to be respectful, and I was.
And I
Um,
think I was
the
too. My apologies if I wasn't.
No, you are not. You definitely are not.
Thank you.
The environment, and I'm going to set this question up. Again, I'm just making a general statement. I'm assuming the Libertarian Party wants clean air and clean water and 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 realizes that the military causes a lot of pollution. I'm just
Hmm.
going to assume that. I'm just going to make that my base. What steps would you take to make the environment in Pennsylvania better than what it is now?
That's a big question because we do a lot of fracking here in Pennsylvania. And when you talk about the military, again, I have no authority over the military. It's federal. I'm not. Josh is running for president, not me. What I would do is just change the law to allow pollution to be treated as a trespass. Because right now, stuff could be leaking onto your property or something like that. Well, that's trespassing. That's your junk on my property. You could be forced to clean it up, get it off my property, get court injunctions, get police assistance to stop that. Right now, though, it's not treated as a trespass. They got all kinds of laws. You can have 0.002% of rat tails in your bologna and things like that. No, I don't want rat tails in my bologna. Come here, break. Instead, if we treated this pollution as a trespass, we can take all the trespassing rules we have now and use that to stop the pollution. And it's funny. I said this on a nationwide debate, and the Republican guy, Mike Fisher, this is in 2002, he said, Ken's right. We should do this. Suppose you bought a house and it's got a bunch of, I don't know, cadmium in the backyard, some kind of pollution, and the seller knew it and they sold it to you anyway. Do you know who's responsible for cleaning it up, Tracy?
I
You
am.
are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
these
am. I
laws,
bought it.
the laws are wrong. The polluter should be the person having to pay the bills. It's the same thing right down the line. It's the criminal who should be put in jail. It should be the polluter who's forced to clean it up. It should be the government to provide a school system where kids actually learn. And if not, you take steps to change it. That's why I'm running for governor. I started off in the beginning. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. These guys they're a bunch of politicians thinking they're educators, thinking they're civil engineers, all these different things. They're not. All they care about is getting your money and spending it on things that they want and getting themselves reelected. This is why I love being a libertarian, because we don't do any of that stuff. Anyway, you get me started, my lady. And this is what I'm bringing. This is what I'm bringing to the
Here
lady.
is what I do want to talk about. I want you to briefly, without making me throw up, uh, talk about because I'm looking up your candidates while I'm talking to you, and I'm setting it up like this. So right now, Stacey Garrity has a 7% chance of winning.
Hmm.
I'm going to assume that your chances are less than hers. I'm just going to make that assumption.
We'll see.
What is it that you're doing now that's going to put you over the victory line?
Well, I've already said my two big things. Kids aren't learning. More than half the kids in school are not learning. Neither one of the two old party candidates are addressing this. None at all. That's a killer issue. When I go out, I get cheered when I bring this up. Property tax. Nobody likes property tax. I get cheered when I say I'm going to eliminate property tax. Neither of the two old party
Okay.
candidates are doing it. There's one guy, he's an independent, and he's saying, oh, I want to cut property tax by 50%. It's like, dude, you're still paying for crappy schools. You're still kicking seniors out of your home. What, do you hate kids? Do you hate seniors?
Well, let me rephrase my question.
Uh-huh.
So, how are you interacting with the Pennsylvania electors? Are you going to state fairs? Are you
Yep.
having Zoom meetings? Are you having town halls? That's
Yep.
probably what I should have asked.
All of the above. And you know what I'm telling people? You mentioned the percentages. It's a foregone conclusion that Shapiro is going to win. It's a foregone conclusion that Stacey is going to lose. What I tell people is it's safe to vote for a libertarian this year, because if you're a Democrat, Josh doesn't need your vote. Maybe you hate property tax. Maybe you're as annoyed as I am about kids not learning. So you're going to vote for me because I'm bringing the whole dialogue about the kids, about the seniors being kicked out of the home. So if you're a Democrat, it's safe to vote for me. Josh is going to win. For the same reason, Stacey's going to lose. If you're a Republican and you don't like property tax and you don't like the kids being not taught, it's safe to vote for a libertarian. In fact, a vote for Tracy would be a wasted vote. She's not going to win.
You said Tracy, her name is Stacy. I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on.
You're Tracy. Sorry. Tracy,
Like,
Stacy. Miss Garrity. There you go. Miss Garrity. How's
I'm like,
that?
because Tracy's not running for anything at any
I'm
time, at any point.
sorry. You know,
I'm
and
like,
I mix up my kids' names too. You know, you go right down the line. Knock it off. Oh, Melanie, Chris, oh. Yeah.
I'm like,
I think it's wired in.
I think I know what you meant, but I'm like, hold on. You would be surprised at how many people think they're going to talk me into running for office. It's not going to happen.
You got the fire in the no. You ought to do it. You got the fire in the belly. You know, Plato once said that people who are too smart to get involved in politics, they leave the field open for people who aren't. No, you should be there, girl. You're the man. You should do it.
No, I should.
I'm
There's
enjoying
no
this. This is fun.
circumstance in which I say, yeah, man. No, I just like I said, the people who I would need support from, once I start opening my mouth and saying what I think about social issues, that's going to be my downfall. And I'm
I don't
like,
think
man,
so. I think you're doing a great job now. You know, it shows that you care for these people, that you want to see something change. But change, you have to make change happen. Who was it? Mahatma Gandhi said that, be the change you want to see in the world. What change do you want to
also
see in the
Obama
world?
said it, but he didn't really mean it.
I'm sorry, I missed that one. Say
I
again.
said Obama also said that, but he didn't really mean it.
He didn't mean it. I don't believe anything that they say. They're politicians. You know, people call me a politician. I say, wait, I'm not a politician. I have not broken a promise yet. Once I do, you can call me a politician. I promise.
Okay, so here is somebody from Left Vernac. This person who I've never seen, thank you, person, for coming on. Says for the president to mark the magic number is 5% popular vote to put the libertarians on the debate stage the following election. Is that just a federal law? How does Pennsylvania's debate work? Is there going to be a debate?
Yes, absolutely, there are. Now, when you look at the federal thing, they got all these federal laws and everything like that. I'm not federal. I'm not going to get into that. I think it should be open. Anybody can do it. And that's what happens here in Pennsylvania. Anybody can throw a debate. When I ran previously, I ran against Ed Rendell. There were 4 debates. Actually, there were 5. I was invited to 4 of them. 2 of them are broadcast nationwide. The League of Women Voters, the Pennsylvania Broadcasting Association, the NAACP, and I forget who the 4th one was. But the point is, anybody can do this. The hard part is getting the candidates to show up. I ran in 2018 against Tom Wolf and the Republican guy, Wagner. And they said, we're not going to debate. They refused. I sent them personal letters to their home saying, please, let's debate. And
Oh, no, that was the wrong thing. You should challenge
Yeah.
them publicly to a debate and ask them, what are they scared of? See, I would
Yeah.
go and that's my other reason I won't run for office. I'm too petty. I am too petty. I'm not nice. I'm not. If you think Trump just says things off the cuff, I'm worse than he is to a certain extent. I'm a lot smarter.
Uh-huh.
But no, you don't want to debate. Oh, I'm going to challenge you to a debate. Every
Yep.
time I'm like, nope, I challenge you to a debate. This date, this place. What are you scared of? I'm going the opposite way.
You know, it's pretty funny because what we did in 2018, these guys didn't want to show up. We went to the League of Women Voters and said, hey, let's have a debate. And they said, well, the 2 old party candidates aren't going to come. And I said, yeah. And they
the
just
problem
said,
with this is what?
yeah. So we did it anyway. We had the president of the Pennsylvania League of Women Voters introduce the whole thing. Pennsylvania Cable Network, their vice president of programming, Francine Schechner, pardon me if I mispronounced that, she moderated the debate. Pennsylvania Cable Network goes out to over 3 million homes around the state. They broadcast it. They put it out there. And me and the green guy, we were able to get our message out there. So in Pennsylvania, we just go ahead and do it. And we're libertarians. We would just do it anyway. And we would show up at, well, if there was a debate to show up at and then we weren't invited, we'd be out front protesting. And I know I did that in 2002 on that last debate that I was not invited to.
Yeah. So, final question: how can people, besides your website, let me put up your website, uh,
Yep. NK4PA.com.
.com. I think I'm going to let Nelson get to have the last word. Well, no. Well, Nelson says it seems that privatization is a sure way to have free for all mayhem, but it is better or worse than the Democrats and Republicans who want to do the same. So
That's
that's
true.
what Nelson said.
It is much better than what the two old parties want to do to you now. They want to control your lives. They want to tax you to death. They want to get in your bedroom. They want to get in your cars. They want to get everything. And, people say, Ken, you're not going to win this year, but it can be done. This year, we're at about 35%, maybe 40% turnout we're going to have. That means in a competitive three-way race, all I need to do is attract the vote of 1 out of 6 voting age Pennsylvanians, and I win. And coincidentally, 1 out of 6 Pennsylvanians are not registered with either of the two old parties. So the electorate is there. The numbers are there. The fact that they have disenfranchised so many people, discouraged people from voting, that only 35, 40% are going to vote, well, let them suffer the consequences. 1 in 6 can stop their tricks.
So besides your website, which I have there, Ken K, the number 4, not the word 4, but the number 4, PA.com. How else can people connect you, volunteer? And again, I've said this before, donate.
Well, of course, the website's the best place to find out the most about me. And by the way, KenKFORPA.com works as well. I've got them both covered. So whichever one you like. You can donate there. You can volunteer there, whatever it is you want to do. My primary vehicle, social media vehicle, is x.com, the old Twitter. And I'm also out on Facebook. So they're the two big ones that I do. I've got an Instagram account, but I'm not an Instagram person. I was on TikTok.
I think that's how I found you. I found you on your Facebook page.
Uh-huh. That's it.
That's how I found you.
There you go. So that's where you'll find me on social media, X and Facebook. I joined X when Elon Musk took over. Elon Musk is one of my personal heroes. I drive a Cybertruck. I've got a Model Y, the SUV version. I love them. I'll never go back to a dirty energy car again. And they drive themselves. When I'm out on the campaign trail, I push the button. I say, take me here. And I just sit back and the car does everything. I love it.
Yeah. So guys, I'm trying to bring this up so we can get concluded here. Thank you everybody that joined. We had another great discussion. I'm gonna have this Thursday another libertarian. So I'm going back to back. In terms of having libertarians on, her name is Tanya Hudson. She is running for Indiana Secretary of State because I got a ton of questions about the mess that's going on in Indiana with our Secretary of State's office, but she's August the 4th. That will conclude my marathon of interviews. I can't promise that it won't happen again because more and more third-party candidates are running. I'm always open to interview them. I thank you, Ken, for coming on and answering my questions. I want to remind everybody to like, share, comment, subscribe. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Like, share, comment, subscribe. And finally, like, share, comment, subscribe. I will see you all Thursday for the normal show. And remember, we can only get, it's only upwards here. Again, Nelson said, and wishing you the best in your campaign.
Thank you.
Meet Josh Shapiro. He's terrible. He's awful. He's disgusting. He makes my stomach crawl. I can't with him. So thank you, sir, for coming. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you all Thursday. Have a great, 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 great evening.
Thank you, my
Bye
lady.
bye.